Good day. To my thesis advisor, Dr. Maria Pag-asa ng NetZero Tyro, to the faculty members of the graduate school, to Ma'am Aisa Padilla Manguan, and to our Dean of the graduate school, Dr. Samuel Chua. Let me introduce myself. I'm Marco Angelo II S. Galicia, taking up Master in International Tourism Management. At this point, let me now present to you my thesis study entitled Makati's Involvement in Urban Tourism Planning Opportunities from a Smart City Perspective. For rationale, the purpose of the study is to investigate the urban tourism planning opportunities from a smart city perspective in Makati City. The result of the study serves as basis to formulate an outcomes-based urban tourism planning framework. For Chapter 1, the problem and its background, according to United Nations World Tourism Organization, urban tourism is a type of tourism activity which takes place in an urban space with its inherent attributes characterized by non-agricultural based economies such as administration, manufacturing, trade and services, and being nodal points of transport. In the year 2015, population live in urban areas are at 54%, and by the year 2030, it is expected that could reach at 60%. Makati, being the setting of this study and being the financial hub of the Philippines, covers a landmass of 27,355,700 square meter and has 4.3% total land area in the National Capital Region. It composes of 33 barangays with 2 legislative districts, and in the year 2020, it has 629,616 population. For the statement of the problem, first, what is the social demographic of the participants of Makati City in terms of age, sex, educational attainment, occupation, and years of residency? Number 2, to what level of involvement in urban tourism planning participants in Makati City in terms of tourist attraction, transportation facilities and services, institutional elements, tourist facilities, and accommodation? For the third, what is the level of smart city perspective of the participants of Makati City in terms of mobility, environment, governance, quality of life, and economy? Fourth, is there a relationship exist between the social demographic and the level of involvement in urban tourism planning of the participants in Makati City? Fifth, is there a relationship exist between the social demographic and the level of smart city perspective of the participants in Makati City? And last, based on the findings of the study, what outcomes-based urban tourism planning framework may be proposed? For the objectives of the study, first, to evaluate social demographic profile of Makati that would serve as the basis to formulate an outcome-based urban tourism planning framework. For number 2, to determine the significant level of involvement of Makati in urban tourism planning in terms of tourist attraction, transportation facilities and services, institutional elements, tourist facilities, and accommodation. For the third, to determine the significant level of smart city perspectives of Makati in terms of mobility, environment, governance, quality of life, and economy. Fourth, to determine the relationship exists between the social demographic and the level of involvement of Makati in urban tourism planning. Fifth, to determine the relationship exists between the social demographic and level of smart city perspective of Makati. And last, to formulate an outcomes-based urban tourism planning framework. Hypothesis of the study can be drawn into 2. First one, there is no relationship exists between the social demographic and the level of involvement in the urban tourism planning of the participants. And the second is there is no relationship exists between the social demographic and the level of smart city perspective of the participants. The scope and limitation of this study is within the community of Makati City and concentrated on urban tourism planning. This study limits its coverage on the socio-demographic profile of Makati City given the situation of the pandemic. And for the chapter 2, which is review of related literature and studies, for the category of sustainable urban tourism development, according to studies of Feinstein 2021, many writers had noted that urban planning, design, and regularization of the use of space that focus on the physical form, economic functions, and social impacts of the urban environment and the location of the different activities within it. Gra and Peterlin 2020 mentioned that sustainable urban development is defined as process of synergetic integration and co-evaluation among environmental, social, economic, and physical subsystems that compose every city. For the topic or category of smart city, according to Pehik 2019, he stated that smart environment is measured by the attractiveness of the natural environment, pollution levels, environmental protection activities, and resource management methods. A smart city is a relatively new concept and has a dynamic development of innovative technologies that would provide opportunities to build smart cities. Also, the Department of the Science and Technology proposed a framework for smart sustainable communities and cities. It has three proponents, namely local government unit, laws and regulations, and stakeholders. For the theoretical framework, this study adopts the urban tourism development model, which has three categories, namely profile of participants, urban tourism planning, and smart city perspective. For the chapter 3, which is the methodology, for the research design, the study utilized a mixed method research design. This design is a systematically integrates quantitative and action research method. It is one of the methods in non-experimental research under correlational design and has a combination of descriptive research design and correlational research design. For the research locale, the research will be conducted in Makati City, where the participants will be residents of Makati City. The locale of the research is also within the community where they find it more convenient and adherent to gather information from their chosen respondents. For the research participants, the researcher will have a sample size of 384 as per computed to RASOF calculator with 95% level of confidence and 5% level of margin of error. For the research instrument, the research instrument that will be conducted by the researcher for this study is a self-made questionnaire. The first part contains demographic data consisting of socio-demographic profile of the participants. The second part is the level of involvement in urban tourism planning. And lastly, the level of smart city perspective of the participants. For the data gathering, the data collections method the researcher has chosen for this thesis is the non-face-to-face survey interviewing in order to collect primary data and find answers to the hypothesis. Questionnaires can be either sent by email, Facebook, Messenger, or other social media platforms convenient to the respondents. For the statistical treatment, for the first statement of the problem, the mode determined the most and the least frequency in the category or group, which is defined the variable social demographic profile of the participants. The second and the third stated problem use mean and standard deviation. And with that, thank you for listening to my presentation.